Hello everyone, we are going to present Proxy pattern. So Proxy pattern is a structural design pattern that lets us provide a substitute or placeholder for another object. Proxy control access to the original object, which allow us to perform something either before or after the request get through the original object. So we use Proxy pattern in situation where creating or accessing resource-heavy object is costly, or where we want to control access to an object without changing its interface. For example, when we are dealing with large files, remote resources, or objects requiring security checks. So the forces toward Proxy pattern are when the client should not be burdened with a complex instantiation or access mechanism, or one we want to control access to real objects by using lazy initialization, security, logging, or caching. The forces against Proxy pattern. So the cons of using Proxy pattern is it creates another layer, the Proxy layer. So it makes the system more complex, and it may reduce the performance if overused. The problem we are trying to solve by using Proxy pattern is to provide control efficient or secure access to an object without changing the client's interaction with it. So the solution is to provide a Proxy object that implements the same interface as the real object. So the Proxy control access to the real object by creating it only when necessary or adding extra behavior before delegating requests to it. So the client may interact with the Proxy in the same way because the Proxy and the real object has the same interface. And the Proxy decides whether to forward the request or create the object lazily or deny the request.
Okay, let's look at the Proxy pattern in the example code, which is the prototype of command line execution tool. When we use the Proxy pattern, we have to define the subject interface as the first thing. Here, we define the command execution interface. The interface defines one method, which is run command. Then, both the real subject and Proxy must implement the same interface. The real subject implements the run command method by directly executing the command, but the Proxy class implements the run method by wrapping the real subject's run command method and extra check-in and access control. It checks whether the user is admin or not. If the user is admin, it will let execute any command. But if the user is not the admin, it will check whether the command is critical command like deleting everything or just simple command. If the command is critical, it will throw exception. If the command is simple command, it will allow execution. In this way, the Proxy adds access control around the real subject method. In client's code, as you see, client will never interact with the real object directly. It will execute command through only the Proxy object. The variant patterns are virtual Proxy, which instantiate expensive objects only when needed. And there is also remote Proxy, which represents objects located remotely. And the protection Proxy is the one in the example, which provides access control based on permissions. And there is smart Proxy, which has extra behavior like login or counting references. And the consequences of using the Proxy pattern are, for advantages, it has a level of control over real object access. It also enables lazy initialization, like saving resources. And it can also enforce security or add cross-cutting concerns like login or caching. But the downsides are it has extra layer of interaction, possibly reducing performance. It can also increase system complexity. The related patterns are decorator patterns, which wraps an object, but it has new behavior, not control. Adapter pattern, which changes interface, while Proxy pattern preserves the interface. and the bridge pattern, which separates the abstraction from implementation, while the proxy pattern mainly controls access.
I will present about the known users for proxy patterns. Proxy pattern is widely used in real-world frameworks. In Java RMI, it allows objects on different machines to communicate through a remote proxy. In Hibernate ORM, proxies are used for lazy loading so that objects are only fetched from the database when needed. And in Spring AOP, proxies are created to handle cross-cutting concerns such as login, security, and transition management. Let's look at a case study. In travel booking system, it interacts with multiple remote APIs such as payment, booking, and flight data. If the chasing proxy is used, we can chase results and avoid frequent network calls. This is the comparison between with and without using chasing. Without chasing, the application fetches data directly from external APIs. That means every request makes a network call, which causes slower response and heavier server load. On the other hand, with chasing, a proxy sits between the application and the APIs. It stores responses for a defined period, so repeated requests can be solved quickly from the chase. This not only improves speed for users, but also reduces the number of API calls and server costs. This diagram shows how the proxy pattern is applied in hotel booking system. At the top, there is booking service interface which defines the two main operations, sessions hotel and booking at hotel. Both the real service and the proxy implement this interface. On the left, the booking service IMPL is the real service. It contains the actual logic to fetch hotel and handle booking by directly interacting with external APIs or database. On the right, the booking chasing proxy acts as a wrapper. Instead of always calling the real service, it maintains a chase. When the application requests hotel data, the proxy first check it if the results are already in the chase. If yes, it returns them quickly without calling the external API. If not, it delegates the call to the real service and then stores the results for future use. This structure improves performance because repeated hotel searches become faster, the number of API calls is reduced. Bookings, however, are still handled by the real service to ensure accuracy. Finally, this is our team member for this presentation. Two of my friends researched the raw content for our presentation, and then I take the presentation editing part. Thank you for your attention.